Hey everybody, Larry, Fort Worth Memories Museum and Group, and all of our groups. Today it's 10 o'clock, and Hometown Heroes, Rick and Mary, y'all have a special guest.
We do indeed.
Let's
We
start
do.
the show.
I'm ready. You ready, Mary?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Our special guest is Jason Malewiski.
Good
Is
enough
that,
for
is
him.
that close?
Malewiski, yes.
Malewiski,
Yep.
like the whiskey.
Yep.
Okay, Malewiski.
Yep.
And Jason's a pretty busy guy, kind of like all of us, I think, but maybe a little busier
Yeah,
than
sounds
we
like it.
are because he's really got a lot on his plate. So you aren't a native Texan, I can tell by the accent.
Right. I was born in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Go Packers.
Oh, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, we got a problem. already.
I was born in Chicago.
Oh.
Go
Did you-
Bears.
Did you not watch the game last night?
My television doesn't tune into Cowboy games. So.
Mine didn't either. Do you know the power went off 30 minutes, and I do the play-by-play on the sports group, and I said, "What the hell? The damn no power." I went outside, and one of my kids went down, and he said, "They ain't got no power either." And it came back on 5 minutes before the game, and I had to scramble and get everything together.
Probably a Packers fan. Cut the wire.
Yeah,
I bet
probably.
they did. But Jason, he was in the Navy, and he made a decision. It wasn't the decision I would have made, but he went to the Air Force.
Oh,
So,
see, that's why he's smart. That's why I like Jason. And we've worked so well together over the years.
Yeah.
but Jason and I have communicated over the years through Facebook Messenger, and then recently I kind of got hooked up again with their organization through Selena Ward. And I started doing a little research and did some internet stuff on y'all and thought, man, I knew about your organization, but I started looking at all the stuff, and I had no idea that you all did all the stuff you did with Servolution.
Servolution Network.
Servolution,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
mouthful too.
Yeah.
Keep it complicated, you know.
Yeah, I guess it makes pronouncing your last name
Sure,
easier.
sure.
Huh? So tell us a little bit about whenever you were in the Navy, then you
Yeah.
went to the Air Force, and
Yeah.
how did all that work?
Yeah, so I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, single mom. I actually had a best friend of mine who was a major troublemaker, going to go see the Navy recruiter. And he said, "Hey, you want to come with me, see how this goes?" And, long story short, that sucker backed out. And I ended up signing up. He was destined to go to the Navy, and I was going to just stay in the Green Bay area. And I ended up signing up for the Navy, probably the single most pivotal decision I probably ever made in my life, except for accepting Jesus and asking my wife to marry her. But that was a huge decision that kind of set the trajectory, I guess, of my life. So I joined the Navy to go see the world, went to boot camp, and they sent me to Grand Prairie, Texas, right? There's a huge ocean in Grand Prairie, right?
They sent you to the promised land.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. As a Packer fan, they sent me to Dallas area right after the Cowboys were winning back to back to back to back to back Super Bowls. It felt like, so it was tough, tough sledding. So I went to Naval Air Station Dallas, worked on F-14 Tomcats for a while. Then we determined they were going to shut down the base, and the Navy was going to take over the old Air Force, Carswell Air Force Base. So I was part of that whole move from Grand Prairie, moving over to Naval Air Station Dallas, part of the team that was doing the initial FOD walks when they had the biggest rabbits in the world over there running all over the runways. It was crazy.
Were they the jackrabbits?
Huge jackrabbits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I used to see them all the time, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden I never saw them. But they
Yeah.
were out there, even as a little boy. Whenever we'd pass there to take Daddy to work, I'd look out there to count the jackrabbits.
Yeah. Yeah, so I moved over to Carswell Air Force Base. We eventually phased out F-14 Tomcats. I got trained up on F-18 Hornets. And I actually, I worked for a Marine gunny at the time, and he really encouraged us to go to school. So I went to night school at Columbia College, taking business classes. And that's actually where I got the idea to switch over from the Navy to the Air Force, because there was actually a JAG enlisted guy that actually did the same exact thing several months before I was about to graduate. And I was like, man, that's awesome. He went from enlisted Navy to officer in the Air Force, and that's the exact kind of path I followed. I graduated college in 2002, got commissioned in the Air Force as a program manager, like a business guy. The amazing thing that happened in Texas is I did meet my wife here. So that's fantastic. I married a Texas girl, so that's kind of why we live here now.
Okay.
Her whole family's here.
It's getting better.
It's getting better. Yeah, it's getting better. So I joined the Air Force 2002. As a program manager, you don't really go to a lot of exotic places, right? I went to Dayton, Ohio. So I moved my wife from Texas to gray skies, if you will, from Dayton, Ohio. Her first winter in Dayton, Ohio, it snowed like crazy. So here's my Texas wife, can't drive. And when I first got there, I had to go to school after school after school. So she despised me for a while because I left her in the snow to navigate the roads in Ohio. So that was a little crazy. When we were in Ohio, we actually adopted 2 of our boys in Dayton, Ohio. So that's been a big part of my life, right? I grew up an only child to a single mom. We went through all kinds of fertility stuff. We ended up adopting, praying about it, adopting. So I adopted 2 of our boys. My oldest just graduated last year. He's at UNT now. We went from Dayton, Ohio, then we went to Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was telling you, at Kirtland Air Force Base. Very unique place. One of the amazing things that happened to me at Dayton, Ohio, talk about meeting people, some amazing people, is they had 100 years of air power that happened in Dayton, Ohio when I was there. So as a lieutenant, I got to escort Gene Cernan, last man to walk on the moon. Right?
Wow.
And they had, he walked me right up to the penthouse in Dayton, Ohio to meet Neil Armstrong. So we met him, I met them all the guys who broke the sound barrier,
Very cool.
flew Enola Gay. I mean, fantastic air power experience, if you will.
Man.
You
So-
met
That right
the guy
back's a
that
good
flew the
place for
Enola
that.
Gay?
What was that?
Yeah.
Tibbetts, General Tibbetts. Yep.
Tibbetts, yeah.
Yep.
Paul Tibbetts?
Yep. I have a pretty cool photo. I have a picture, me as a lieutenant with Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan, first and last man supposedly to walk on the moon. That was pretty
And
awesome.
that was in Dayton
It
that
was
you
in
did
Dayton,
that. And have you been to Dayton?
Yeah, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Yeah, 'cause
is
that's
there.
where
It's a
the-
huge
And they got the museum is
It
fantastic.
is a
yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
base,
Yeah.
and I ran the Air Force half marathon there on the Air Force Reserve team, and it's a little hilly. Yes, my ex-husband, my first husband's family, is still in Dayton,
Okay.
and so I would go to Wright-Pat quite a bit.
Because I always want to go there to
Yeah.
see the museum
It's
there,
worth
because
it.
it's
Yeah.
a fantastic museum, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just so much history. You know, when you talk about air power, you can't miss it going to Wright-Pat, because they also do a lot of schools there. They have a
Sure.
lot of different schools there.
Yep. And Air Force Research Lab is there, so a lot of
Yep.
guys
Yep.
go to college there, get their degrees and all that stuff there.
Yeah, we used to send a lot of models up there to test because they had a wind tunnel up
Yep.
there.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and so you went to Albuquerque after.
Yep. So
Dayton.
when I was at Dayton and even through Albuquerque, my job title kind of changed, right? I did avionics in the Navy, and then I became a program manager. So I think God's been grooming me kind of this whole time, because my job, really as a program manager, is connecting smart people, rallying them together to do some pretty cool stuff and work on some really cool projects. So we were at Kirtland Air
Maybe you
Force
can
Base.
rally Mary and myself together. I mean, we're pretty smart people.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is awesome. We talked about that.
We
right?
like to think so anyway. It may not be true, but we like to think it.
Yeah. No, there's power in the network, and we'll talk a lot about that, I think, today.
And that's what we look at in a roll call too, is how we can network with other organizations that fit, our model and can help our veterans. So
Share that real quick, just because I don't think even the folks that follow what we're doing know much about roll call. I've been there a couple times with Kerry Wilcox, and it's absolutely amazing. But give a 1 minute plug for what roll call is, because it's awesome.
Oh, I think we plug roll call a lot on here, because
I know
this is a
on
roll
here.
call.
but not on his
Right, right.
his
So-
network.
So, of course, our mission is to honor and serve our veterans through providing a regular venue for camaraderie and fellowship, right? So a lot of what you're doing with the fellowship aspect of it, and our thing is that we find that the veterans will open up more if you sit them with another veteran. So they may be carrying some stuff that they haven't talked about, that they haven't shared, that when they get in that room, and the room will be 400 or 500 people, but you put them in the room and all of a sudden it's like we're just at home with our family,
Yeah.
and we're serving them a meal. But not only are we serving them a meal, we're giving an opportunity to hear other people's stories and to open up and share their stories. So, and of course, the other things that we do with taking vets to events. Don Graves will be singing the national anthem on Monday, the 30th, at the Military Day at the rodeo. And we'll have a few other World War II vets there to be honored. So we'll take them anywhere that people invite them. And we have all eras. We have currently serving through World War II. So the reality is that what we do is really just help connect people and give them other people to be around and to share their stories and let their stories live on. So it's pretty cool what we do. And our members are really great at when the base or an organization like yours or any other organization calls me or emails me and says, hey, I got a family that needs food. I got a family that needs a crib. I got a family that needs X, Y, and Z. I put the word out, and like that, our membership, which is near 1,300 total, they're there and they're making it happen.
That's awesome. That's kind of, you'll see it on the front of these flyers, building community together. That's exactly what you do. And I think
exactly.
I've seen it. I mean, I think when you get everybody around the table and you get to know each other, you begin to love and encourage one another, and then you take care of each other. That's kind of what our whole organization is all about.
Exactly.
So we were at Albuquerque. Couple cool things happened in Albuquerque. You got a couple highlights that usually happen in your military career. I was on the Airborne Laser Program, so it was like some Star Wars stuff where we would take a old 737, 707, and we'd blast a laser like Star Wars out of the side of it with a coil laser to knock ballistic missiles out of the sky. That was kind of the whole design of the program. It turned out to be very, very cost ineffective. Several $1 billion for a couple of them. And then to alert them and all that stuff was just not practical. But that was cool program. While I was at Kirtland, I ended up, I volunteered for a deployment. So my one deployment as a program manager, which doesn't happen very often, was to Ethiopia. So I went there on a UN peacekeeping mission. And it was old school, almost Civil War era, where it would be howitzer against howitzer, literally 100 yards away down the border between Ethiopia and Eritrea. It was a border dispute over the access to the Red Sea. And then every night they would move all their troop positions, all their troops, howitzers, tanks. And our job as the UN was to report troop movement. The most poverty-stricken nation I've ever been to in my life.
Ethiopia?
Ethiopia,
Yeah.
yes, sir. I mean, I think India is pretty terrible as well, but it was very, very eye-opening. Where we take for granted sometimes. You see a kid on TV and you say, "Oh, poor pitiful kid." The kids were absolutely ecstatically happy, like they could just play in the dirt with whatever they had. The joy of those people to not have very much, as Americans would think, was really, really eye-opening for me to be there. So did that deployment, got back to Albuquerque, and then we moved to Tinker Air Force Base, and that's really kind of how Servolution got plugged in. So we got plugged into a local church at Tinker Air Force Base. They were what I call a Servolution church. So I didn't tell you this kind of part of the story, but Servolution started in Louisiana in response to Hurricane Katrina. A church called Church of the Highlands just served their community right after the aftermath of the hurricane. They wrote a book about it. Our church was a big part of it in Tinker, like I said. And, it's different everywhere. They don't do the programs we do here, but they just basically love their community with whatever that looked like. So when we were in Oklahoma City, we would have cookouts for local apartments. We would go serve local schools, just kind of whatever the director, I guess, at the time wanted us to kind of go do, we'd follow suit. So I left Tinker and really left Servolution. Never thought again about it, really. We moved, like I was telling you, to the Azle, Weatherford area. We got plugged into a church out in Springtown, and my passion at that time, the first year we moved here in 2012, was to really start a men's group, and it really never got off the ground. We ended up switching churches. We moved over to the church at Azle in early 2013, and I actually, on a Wednesday night, they were serving dinner, and I just wore one of our old shirts that said Servolution on it to a Wednesday night dinner, and my pastor said, "What is that?" And it really just sparked kind of the first ever domino of me to open up and share what it was. And he just without even missing a beat, he just said, hey, we need that here. I don't know what it is really, but we need that here, right? So we jumped all into serving people dinner on Wednesday nights. Then my pastor challenged me to have a first responders appreciation banquet. And at that time, we were helping some of the widows and elderly in our own church, just taking care of our own family, if you will, our own community. And I made up these really cheesy flyers of this, like I was maybe a third grader, but I handed them to some influential people, right? Like Larry knows a bunch of people. And I handed one to the mayor of Azle. He came to that, Alan Brundrett. And he came to that first and second First Responders Appreciation Banquet. And lo and behold, God made another connection. It's just the power of the network, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. There's so much more we can do together than we can do alone. He was at the time the mayor over all of the Tarrant area mayors, and they had this group called Six Stones, the number 6 in Stones, which is out of Hurst, Euless, Bedford, come and present to them. And they told them about how they fixed up houses in it was like, they were in 7 cities back when we first started. Hurst, Euless, Bedford, Haltom City, Watauga, Cleburne, and they would fix up 50 homes in a weekend with thousands of volunteers and corporate sponsors. And again, the mayor said, hey, we need that in Azle. I want you, Six Stones, to come to Azle. And they said, oh, we're in Hurst, Euless, Bedford. We can't do that, But if you can find a church or an organization that's willing, we'll kind of train them. So again, go back to my cheesy little flyer. The mayor set up a meeting between us and them, and we said, yeah, let's go, right? So what that produced was, it's called a 380 Economic Development Agreement. We signed a contract with the city of Azle, which basically in my simple terms are, if you're a resident inside Azle city limits and you submit an application and the city vets you and approves you, so they do things like they'll check you for financial background, police records, all that kind of stuff. Have you paid your taxes on time? All that kind of stuff. And if they approve you or disapprove you, then I get those applications. And we signed this contract with the city of Azle in 2016 timeframe, and it kind of helped us take what we learned at the church and then rolled it into the city. I guess it was our first kind of outreach. So it allowed us to learn as we go. To date, we're somewhere around, I think, 100 houses we've done in the city of Azle alone, or the big city, not maybe city limits. So we've done a phenomenal amount of houses in partnership. And what I've learned over the years is there's power in the ask. So we try, especially in today's world where social media is terrible, we try and use social media to ask on behalf of people. So we find a senior citizen who's in need, we'll try and package it up in such a way, and we'll just ask on social media and pray that God will send people to help that need. Same thing you do with the email blasts and stuff, and people keep responding and keep responding and keep responding. I will tell you one thing. You mentioned Selena Ward. We chose to, when we started our nonprofit, to take Servolution, right? They wrote this book called Servolution. When we were looking to start our own nonprofit, we chose the name Servolution Network for a specific reason, because people I don't know, and I know people you don't know, and so on and so forth, and together we can do a lot of amazing things. Mm-hmm. So we chose the name Servolution Network, and Selena is one of those people, right? I got connected to her, just like you and I have, Rick, where we knew each other, but we didn't know each other. I was sending her emails for we were getting ready for a Good Neighbors Blitz, and finally, right, she opened one. And one of the top ones we had on there was a veteran in need. So it triggered her brain because her husband's a vet. She knows a ton of people, skip a lot of details. She links me up with this gentleman, Ryan Gamble. Selena and I had never met face to face. She said, hey, let's do lunch. So me, Selena, and Ryan Gamble, he owns BME Exteriors, which is a roofing company out of Grapevine. Remember, I'm in Azle. We're trying to focus on houses in Azle. We have lunch. We're there 30 minutes, and I'm telling him kind of what we do through Good Neighbors. And this dude looks me in the eyes and said, sign us up to do a roof a month for veterans.
Wow.
I'm like, what?
A roof a month?
Yeah, so that's where I think there's power in the ask. I say it all the time. As long as you have integrity and you're honest and you're transparent, people are going to deliver. So we just keep asking. And
yeah, we need that everywhere, because we have a World War II vet in the Benbrook area that we've done work on his house through our own group
Yeah.
of people, but he's had more need than we could do, and you guys can't come out that far. So
We're in. So the cool thing is now, and I'll skip some of the details. So we were in Azle, right? We recently, a couple months ago, signed a 380 agreement in Lake Worth. So now we've got city limits here for where we have some financial help. If you're outside of those city limits, then we have to totally partner with other businesses and organizations, which I just call it, frankly, a ministry opportunity. An amazing thing that's happened let me go pre-COVID, okay? Let's talk specifically on veterans just for a second. Pre-COVID, Home Depot has been our probably biggest and best partner. They've partnered with us pre-COVID probably on 15, 17 homes where we've found a need, we've wrote a grant, they've approved it at corporate, and then they send out folks through the Team Depot programs, to help those homeowners, right? Phenomenal program. COVID hits. They can't give out grants, really. They can't come serve. Matter of fact, this Tuesday is the first time in a couple of years, this next Tuesday, the 24th, where we're partnering with Home Depot again to help a veteran in Arlington. Okay, so pre-COVID, we basically had this roofing company, I told you, BME Exteriors, and Team Depot, for the most part, carried the load on helping most of the veteran needs we had. Post-COVID now, God's provided us with an amazing grant writer. We got some grants through the United Way, which quickly connected us with Combined Arms and Texas Veterans Network. So now we have some grant coverage to help veterans in Tarrant County. So our pockets, if you will, for assistance, for help with the Good Neighbors program has now expanded to help veterans in Tarrant County. So we've helped, the last blitz we did, we helped a couple veterans in Mansfield. Through those grant monies, we've helped veterans in Benbrook. So it's pretty amazing. We've got some phenomenal partners, so many partners, if you will, that we created a Love Your City Partners website to kind of give back to these folks, because I get people calling me all the time to say, hey, who would you use for plumbing, electrical, roofing? We point them to that website over and over and over. Please use these folks who donate through our community to help us.
yeah, the Texas Veterans Network is another group that really they are helping to make a lot of those connections.
They are.
They're so very good at that. Yeah.
And I love the fact that they use the name network as well, right? So
Yeah.
we're definitely, our circles are interwoven. Megan specifically, who I
Yeah.
deal with most, is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Megan is. Yep.
Yep.
And we're gonna be running your website on our ticker at the bottom of our show
Okay.
today, but I just want to reach out right now to the people that are listening to it. To if you're in construction, if you have a supply company or whatever, if there's a way that you can help, we want you to get involved with Jason and his organization, so we can help more people. So.
Amen.
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 Yep.
I'll just rattle off a couple of our biggest needs right now. So we've got 3 programs that I'll cover a little bit. Good Neighbors, where we fix up houses. Pay It Forward, where we collect furniture, appliances, give it away for free. And then the Fig Leaf Boutique is our free clothing closet. So Good Neighbor specific, lumber. Lumber is a huge need, right? We're all seeing the impacts of COVID. We still have
Right.
requests for decks and ramps and all that kind of stuff. So lumber is a huge need for the Pay It Forward program. If somebody knows mattress connections, we desperately need mattresses. Huge need. Washers, dryers, refrigerators, if there's any organizations listening that have those resources. And then for the Fig Leaf Boutique, brand new socks and underwear, right? So we give away clothes. You never want to give away used, any of that other stuff. So brand new socks and underwear would be a huge need. So I'm kind of all over the map, but that's kind of how I run. So
Have you heard about this mattress man that
I was
done a
thinking him
million
too. Mattress Mac down in Houston.
down in Houston? He bet $1 million on TCU.
Well, it turned out to be $3 million
He
they
bet
lost on
something
TC
not too long ago and won $75 million.
On the-
Let's say
on the
he gives away-
Astros.
Oh yeah,
No.
he does.
That's who you need to contact.
Yeah, we
dude,
need
help
Yeah.
me make that. So I bet on TCU and I lost my beard. So he obviously.
Well, he's in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Houston.
but
But
we
there
need
has
a-
to be somebody like him up here, like maybe
There's a
Larry
Mattress
Brumbaugh
Mac
might
up
be
here.
on there,
Yeah.
who's
Larry Brumbaugh.
yeah, no. So we
I
got a
think
lot
he's
of
gonna be giving it away.
we got a lot of folks out there that are listening that have connections. So if
Yeah.
you have a connection, if you know somebody who can help out with the
Yeah.
things that he needs that are new. Now, when it comes to the appliances, are you guys taking gently used?
Yes.
Or because
Yes.
that's what I get a lot of folks that are members of Roll Call that are moving, they're downsizing, whatever the case might be,
Yes.
and they're saying, "Hey, I got a like a brand new almost washer and dryer, or I've got a this living room set that's in really great shape, but I just don't want to just throw it away. Do you have somebody who can use it?"
Yep.
We've given a lot of stuff to the base, and the fleet, Navy Fleet and Family Support has a little storage, but they can't keep a lot of stuff, and they don't need to help as many people necessarily. So if I can point them to you, then that's even better.
One of our biggest challenges is logistics of all of that stuff. So
Right.
again, opportunity. If any of you veterans are out there sitting at home and want to get plugged in, we could definitely use your support to help facilitate the logistics train. So we have some amazing partners. I think I shared with Rick, the Church at Azle donated us an acre and a half of land. That's where we have what we call the Dream Center. So we'll cover that in a second. Brace Chiropractic, who's a local Azle phenomenal lady, Jessica Brace, donates us a warehouse where we collect all of our pay it forward items, beds, all of the furniture, all of the appliances is there. And our Fig Leaf Boutique is at Community Bible Fellowship Church. So we've got kind of 3 different organizations that help us exist. So we are definitely, again, the power of the network.
Did y'all have a deal at the rock school last year?
No, sir. No, sir.
There was I got a flyer on something that was happening at the rock school, and I was out of town that weekend. It must have been a different deal.
Let's talk about, you said that the church deeded you, or deeded your organization some land,
Yes.
and you built a building on there.
Yes,
You
we
didn't
sure
build a building on that.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
this is, I watched that show. There was a YouTube I found, and it was Texas Country Reporter,
Yes, sir.
because your organization popped up, and that's just a fascinating story of how you got one of those Mueller built buildings for free.
Yes. So phenomenal, right? We're in year 7. Again, we'll go back to the same grant writer. This grant writer, her name is Adrienne Malmberg. She's absolutely fantastic. I've applied several years already to the Mueller grant because everybody says, go apply, go apply, go apply. And sometimes when you're the executive director, everybody wants your time and everybody wants you to apply for everything, right?
Right.
So I apply. I'm not a gifted writer. Do my best, but I'm not a gifted writer. So I applied for 2 years in a row. This particular year in 2020, they said apply. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've already done this a couple times. Kind of going through the motions, and we're literally a week away from application deadline. And again, the power of the network. I'm going to say it a million times. Okay, we have a local hairstyle, or what do you call it? Hairdresser, excuse me. Hairdresser that goes to my church that knows a gentleman who works for Mueller. And she's telling, I guess she does his wife's hair, and she's telling him all about what we do. And this guy calls me. His name is Leo Scott. My grandfather's name is Leo. Not a lot of people named Leo. Leo calls us with about a week left before the grant's due and says, hey, you better apply, and you better tell an amazing story about all the people you help, right? So we had not been doing that on our previous applications. And then once you apply, let me know, and I'm going to run it up my chain of command, because they call this the Helping Hands program through Mueller. This is basically their company picnic where they take their employees, don't go to a picnic and get all bunch of food. They actually go and serve once a year. Mueller gives away a 4,000 square foot building to a nonprofit in the state of Texas every single year.
About $80,000, you said.
Yeah, yes. And this is in large part, we were talking a little bit about Bob Phillips earlier. Bob Phillips went to Brian Davenport, owner of Mueller, and said, in the recession, I think he said, this was, ours was year 13, so 13, 14 years ago. He said, hey, Brian Davenport, we need to give away a building. Right, so they're in the middle of a recession. Their company jumped all in. So yeah, we applied. Adrian helped us craft some of the wordsmithing stuff to tell the story about some of the people we've helped. And lo and behold, 250 applicants-ish applied. We were down selected to 4. They came and interviewed us, which was absolutely phenomenal.
Bob Phillips with Texas Country Reporter.
Yep. Bob and his whole crew is phenomenal. So they came and interviewed us, and it was part of this YouTube story that they put together, kind of a testimonial. And The waiting game of all these kind of stuff is the hardest part, I think, for people who are doers. You got to hurry up and wait. But Bob Phillips is actually the one who called me and said, "Hey, Jason, I'm sorry to tell you, but you guys didn't win this year." And then he just let it sit in for a few minutes. And then he said, "Just kidding, bud. You won." I was like, what? Yeah, so it's phenomenal.
Great.
So we found out, timing may be a little off, but we found out in July 2021 that we had won, right? So the church donated us the land to make it happen. They told us in July by 15th of September that we had to pour a slab for this building. So we decided, right, in all this brilliance I have, to we held we called a community fest on probably the hottest day of the last 10 years. We held a community fest outside so we could fundraise so we could pour a slab. And people came out. We raised like 30 grand. It was a terrible day outside, but we raised a lot of money. We poured the slab. First part in October, Mueller brings what they call Mueller Men to Azle, Texas, with Bob and his whole team. Videoed the whole thing. The Mueller Men built our 4,000 square foot warehouse in 2.5 days.
Wow.
So they planned it for a 3-day thing. They documented the whole thing. The video is fantastic.
It was a cool event.
Yeah, it was a huge community celebration for the ribbon cutting. We invited everybody who would be willing to come. Probably had 400 or 500 people come. They gave us the keys to the building. Just phenomenal.
And that's a picture I used to kind of do the promo for this, is you holding up those keys. So
Holding the
that's what
keys.
that picture is about. So
Totally. When you come there, it's phenomenal because everything there has been donated in one way, shape, or form. Whether somebody gave $1, somebody donated a building, you asked about all the services. I'm always afraid about naming people because I'm always afraid I'm going to leave somebody out. But particular Andrew's Plumbing donated all the plumbing. Huge cost. Andrew's Plumbing is phenomenal. JBI Electric, the owner is Jack Martin, phenomenal company. His guys spent literally 6 weeks from when the building was done, 6 weeks to wire up everything we've got in the whole building. Donated it all. Wow. Just phenomenal.
saved your organization
$30,000, $40,000.
tens of
Easily.
thousands of dollars.
Yes. So we call it the Dream Center. Why? Because in large part, when we first started, we never had a home, right? I kind of left this part out. The church, we started as an outreach minister at the church, but when you're building stuff, you got to have a place to store stuff. We had the warehouse for all of our pay it forward stuff fairly early. The mayor of Azle helped us secure the old Azle library. That's where we called our home for a long time. They had a benefactor build them a brand new library in Azle, phenomenal library, and the old one kind of sat vacant. So we partnered with the city of Azle to have a home, if you will, for us. Now, by God's grace, we have our own home. We call it the Dream Center. So we're co-located on the same campus as the church at Azle and Azle Christian School, kind of tucked back in there. So, cool side story is when Mueller came and built this 4,000 square foot warehouse, about 6 years before that, somebody donated us about a 1,600 square foot warehouse that literally sat unbuilt. It was brand new, but unbuilt in my backyard for about 6 years because we didn't have any land, nowhere to build it, driving my wife nuts because there's a pile of metal sitting in the backyard. So when we poured this slab, we poured the other slab. Soon as Mueller left, we used the equipment they used to erect it to erect this other one. So now we've got kind of a central hub, headquarters, office area with our warehouse. It's really, really overwhelming to think of how far God's brought us from just a T-shirt, if you will, to a Dream Center, and who knows kind of what's next.
And you've helped so many people. And it's not always about the people you help, but the people that are helping.
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
Because that's the ones that get the blessing
Yes.
too.
Yeah, you're right.
Because so many times people are wanting something to do, to belong to something, to say, hey,
To give
I
back.
did something.
Right. People want to give back.
And we have some people in roll call that are just quite unassuming people that they just are always in the background doing things, because that's the way they give back. And there's so many people out there that want to give back and help, whether it's physical, being a part of the labor team, or maybe sorting clothes, something like that.
There's opportunities for everybody. A lot of people say, well, I can't help because I can't build. Ironically, you guys, you wouldn't even believe me. I can't build either. I am not a builder. I'm a program manager. I've been kind of groomed to be a program manager. My father-in-law, who I left out from the beginning, Bruce, is the builder. He's a lifelong, he's the Jesus, if our team is, if you will. He's the carpenter. He's been a carpenter for 50 years. When we first moved here in 2012, another how we got here was my then 3-year-old stuck, and this sounds almost, I've said it so many times, but it sounds so stupid to even be real, but he stuck a full bar of soap in the upstairs toilet, right? And clogged the toilet. I have 4 children. Okay, I told you I have 5. 4 children that lived upstairs. My bathroom toilet flooded for probably 4 or 5 days, literally on the floor, running down the wall, down the steps. The first time I saw water was coming out the front porch of my house. None of my kids said a word.
Wow.
None of them said a word. Nothing. So we have USA Insurance, so as we're repairing our house from the flood damage, my father-in-law is fixing everything, sheetrock, painting, flooring, blah, blah, blah. And he says, hey, we should figure out a way to do this for the community. And that was kind of like, oh,
There's another seed.
there's
Yeah.
another seed. Without Bruce, this doesn't happen. I do not have the skills to do this. I wouldn't have even known what to ask. When a homeowner writes an application, I can go there and take pictures. I can do all the marketing I want. But to know how to make those repairs whole and how to help people age in place, if you will, I'm not your guy. Again, that's the power of the network.
And the power of the team too.
Yes.
The network and the team, because we all have we come together, but we all have different talents and abilities. And what you can't do, this other person can do. So
I think that's why
I think it's in the Bible like that about the
yeah.
body
Yeah,
of Christ.
yeah.
It is, and it's the power of God bringing people together
Yeah.
to do. It's not the government's responsibility to take care of each other. It's our
Say
responsibility.
that again. Say that again. That's good.
And that's the problem today is that it's all about, when's the government going to give me?
Yeah.
Well, where does the government get that? They get it from us. Why don't
Yeah.
we just do it?
Yep.
Why don't we get the government out of the way? Because it always costs us way more to have the government involved.
You're right.
Let's just do it without
You'd
them.
still be waiting to put the building up.
Right,
If you
yeah.
depended on
You
that.
wouldn't have a building
Yeah,
yet.
you're right. And, I'm a big checklist guy. And I think when I had the realization that my checklist, going back to the Bible, needs to be really short, right? Love God, love people. Everything else gets in the way. Love God, love people, right? Pretty simple.
Right.
You mentioned our vision statement. So a couple things, right? When we first started this, we started from a church, like I shared with you guys. We could have put a Bible verse on here and stuff, but I chose specifically the name network, like I shared, building community together, because we've thought from the very, very inception that community, what should they do? Maybe not what do they do, but what should they do? They should take care of each other. Right? So that's kind of what we did. And then our vision statement is to create opportunities for the blessed to be a blessing. Nothing fancy, right? It's just we put the opportunity out there. You can come and get involved. You cannot. You can donate money. You can donate time. You can donate resources, your talent. We have one guy. I got so many stories in my brain.
I
But
bet.
we got one guy, Jim Shinsky. We've had. We're about to have our 13th blitz. This guy. So typically, how a blitz works is when we get a home. We have a site captain. He's like the train conductor of the whole chaos. My job is to throw volunteers and donors at that house. His job is to organize the chaos, and we make sure we do our best to get done with the project in those 2 days. Jim Chinsky, he's 6'7". We call him the big helper, and he's led a house every single blitz we've had. I can think of donor after donor after donor that's helped us. Last blitz, we put out the need. We have the Dream Center, right? So it's got water, it's got electrical. But we didn't in the warehouse. We don't have central heat and air, right? So David Hart, who owns Hart HVAC, he's a veteran. Reached out to Train, made a business connection, like big huge Train.
Right.
Made a business connection. He donated 2, though they donated 1, and they came and installed 3 HVAC units in our place. For how much? Again, no cost to us.
I know David Hart.
He's phenomenal.
His wife's a beautician or something.
He's now on our board, so he's trying to work us up with some, or link us up, with some nationwide home serve kind of partners, which will be that'll be a real game changer for us to try and help more folks. So we a partnership we just got to announce about a week ago is Carrie Wilcox helped us kind of get linked in, and Brad Vaughn, who's on my board, he's a barber. It's the power of the network. He has a customer appreciation crawfish boil every year at his barbershop just to thank his customers. Every year he donates to a nonprofit. During that customer appreciation, he raises some money, and then he wants to do good with the money. This past year, he had Carry the Load come and tell people what Carry the Load's all about. So long story short, again, we applied to be a Carry the Load partner. So last week we just got
Very good.
told we're officially a Carry the Load partner.
We have a meeting pretty soon too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. They got a bunch of meetings actually
Yeah,
for Carry the
they
Load.
do.
So we're
And
excited.
that's a great way that all the organizations come together
Yep.
to network with each other, but to raise funds too.
Yes.
And that's something that we need to do as roll call, is to become a part of that. The Carry the Load, and that's every Memorial Day. It's a 3-day event.
Yeah.
Right.
We have a walk here in Fort Worth from the TCU over to the firefighter and police monument.
Yeah.
And then it's 2 days, Sunday and Monday in Dallas, and thousands of people come.
Have you guys been there?
Walk.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I went last year for the first time. I just
Yeah.
took a couple of my kids.
Unbelievable,
Oh my
isn't it?
goodness gracious! Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
and then the end whenever because what they do is try to it's the way we observe Memorial Day is to remember all the fallen people.
Yes.
Right.
And they have these hundreds of signs of all the different fallen people, and then at the end is whenever they pick the signs up and all along
That's
this
so
walk,
emotional.
and then they bring them and turn them in. And the Terry
Yeah.
Burgess and Elizabeth Burgess, they always pick Brian's up and,
Of
and walk
course.
with it, and it's such an amazing scene to see Terry and Elizabeth hand that sign over for next year. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you're linked up with them.
Yeah. So we're excited. We're excited about what that looks like for us for sure.
Yeah. But
Um,
you're this is just it's like a breath of fresh air to see the excitement that you have and see the passion you have and know that we have organizations like this that help other people, and
Yeah.
it just makes me want to get involved, And
Yeah, and I think you made a good point. Is we've got and we've got a lot of folks at roll call that are blessed and have plenty, and we have a lot of people in roll call that they couldn't give you a dime, right? But we have a lot of people that say, I want to give my time. And I think that's the piece that we often miss, is that we as an organization struggle sometimes to find a lot of things that people can give their time to. And I think it's great because you have a blitz coming up. And this might be a great opportunity for some folks to give some time, right?
Yeah. Amen. We're collecting homes now, right? The Blitz is in April. I was looking at some numbers. So right now, just for some perspective, and I focused a lot at Good Neighbors because it's kind of our biggest program. We're doing a lot of amazing things through Pay It Forward and Fig Leaf as well. Matter of fact, we were just texting our group, Pay It Forward this year. Deanne sent some numbers and served 933 clients this year through Pay It Forward.
Wow.
So that's collecting stuff, blessing stuff. And I think Fig Leaf Boutique served, I want to say 2,400 clients this year, which is absolutely over the top amazing from where we started. We started with semi-trailers full of hundreds of bags of donated clothes. When you tell people to donate clothes, people donate clothes like crazy. And we got overwhelmed. We had a bad plan initially. We've learned. The lady who's leading it now is April. She's phenomenal. Has a organizational mindset and skill set. And again, God's blessed us with somebody really, really talented. Right now on Good Neighbors, we have 31 homeowners on our waiting list.
Wow.
Just for some perspective, because you guys know people I don't know, right? I'm going to ask. 14 of those 31 are veterans.
Wow.
Okay, so that's things that people need. I get it a lot. Sagging floors in the living room, ceilings coming in, my roof is bad, my foundation's bad, trees about to fall on my house. Any trade that you can think of, we can put it to use somewhere, I promise you.
And you have 14 right now.
14 veterans on our waiting list right now.
Okay.
Yep. So some of those come, I shared, some of those come from Combined Arms through Texas Veterans Network to us. We're getting one, maybe two a week from those, right? So that's a pretty high ops tempo, given the magnitude of some of the requests they have. Some of them are, my back door's unsecured, I don't feel safe at home. Some of them are, my washer and dryer don't work. I mean, you name it, we're getting requests for it. Again, 95% of what we do is exterior. The project we're doing next Tuesday with Home Depot and Recon Construction, right? So that happened from the Power of the Ask. Recon Construction, veteran-owned company. They're going to kind of co-lead the project with us. We're going to paint the outside of this veteran in his wife's house, paint some of the inside, help with some minor plumbing. Imagine, you guys see this through roll call. So many of these folks have done so much for our country, and they can't even change the plumbing underneath their kitchen sink anymore.
Right.
It's our job, I feel, as our community to step up and help. So
Sure.
we just keep asking.
Get too old and fat like me.
Hey, it
Can't
happens.
get down to the floor and
It happens.
get
Life
back
changes. Life changes in a blink.
How are you doing on paint?
How are we?
Where do you get paint?
We get paint from all of amazing paint story. CWD, which is our Azle trash service. Our mayor has some crazy thinking sometimes. So he saw a Dirty Jobs episode and said, hey, let's figure out how to recycle paint. So every house in Azle now takes paint that the community donates, recycles it, and every house in Azle gets recycled paint.
Okay.
We've got hundreds of gallons of paint at our facility. So if people need paint, come see us. Paint
Wow.
The reason I asked is my son-in-law's family owns a paint manufacturing company.
Yeah.
So
Well, shoot, we'll take new paint. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
We get.
But that's such a great point. You don't think about that. You buy a gallon of paint to paint a bathroom, and you don't end up using half of it. What do you do with the other
Yeah.
half of it, right?
Yeah,
and I was thinking a while ago when you were talking about lumber. Lumber, you can reuse lumber.
sure.
And you have somebody like Donna Snow that moves houses, and there's houses that they can't move that somebody has to do demolition on it. And that'd be a good way for people that want to go help, go reclaim the lumber to use. So
Yep. I know we get a lot of requests for ramps, and everybody says, "Well, go apply for Texas ramp." They're just as busy as everybody else is, right? So a lot of times when people ask for a ramp, you really can't wait 6 months. Like,
Right.
they need it
Right.
tomorrow,
Oh, yeah.
or they're coming from the hospital on Saturday. So having what it does for us is, so we've got the Dream Center. Imagine this. You guys will have to come out sometime. We've got the Dream Center. We got the conference room area. Now, weird circumstances, right? My house at home was all metal roof, so we had some hail damage. So the roofer comes out. One of our amazing partners, Select Construction, who's donated. Oh, by the way, just like BME has, each of them have donated 15 roofs through our nonprofit to help people in need. Phenomenal companies. I could go through the list on and on. But Select pulls off all this metal from my house. We put it all in the flatbed trailer, and now we've got kind of I call it a Christian Home Depot kind of out the back of our place, where we built some lumber racks. We've got rakes, shovels, wheelbarrows, a little bit of a lumber yard, ladders, all that kind of stuff, ready for people to jump in and say, hey, I'll come and take that wheelchair ramp, or I'll come and paint this house, or I'll kind of, so God's just kind of building a little Christian empire, if you will, just to serve our community. So 14 of 31 are veterans on our waiting list. Pre-COVID, I think we did around 25 homes through partnership with Home Depot and a couple other organizations, but predominantly Home Depot was great. Like I said, 2021, we got that veteran, or the United Way grant. We got a grant to help veterans, specifically in Tarrant County. We still need help. This is another shameless plug. We still need help helping veterans that are not in Tarrant County. So if you're in Parker County and you're a veteran, you still 100%, we got to figure out how to fundraise and help those folks. We got several requests of those 14 that are Parker County veterans. And I'll tell you guys, one of the things I see more times with veterans than I do non is veterans wait till it's too late to ask for help, because I think internally we struggle with pride and asking for help. So usually they're some of the worst houses we work on because they've waited way too long, or they waited way too long, the man passes, and now the wife is stuck with years of disrepairs on the house. So we help a lot of spouses of veterans as well. To date, and we're definitely not a numbers organization, so please don't take this the wrong way. We track the numbers because we should, and we should be good stewards. To date, of all the homes we've done 213 home revitalizations since we started with a t-shirt kind of years ago. So it's pretty cool to see where God's brought us and all the people that have helped us get there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, Larry, you're probably thinking right now about different people that you know and ways that you can get your group, Fort Worth Memories, involved in helping, whenever there's
I'm
a
gonna
need.
come out there and
Yeah, we ought to just do that. Just some afternoon we'll go out there and take a tour and take pictures so we can tell people more about you and help your network grow. So
Would love it. Would love it.
that's the biggest problem I've been preaching forever. The biggest problem with every community is communication. So when Mike Moncrief was in, Betsy Price, Maddie, y'all have heard me say it, a pep rally. We ought to do a pep rally every month at the convention center, Dickey's Arena. Everybody, all you got to do is wear a name tag. If we all knew what each other did,
Yeah,
we wouldn't need the government.
you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is. I've seen it time and time again. Communication is so vital and so difficult, right? Because now we're in an era on social media to where if you're not talking terrible things, you don't get a lot of airtime. The metrics on even people opening emails is terrible. It's 2 or 3 out of 10 people open emails. So trying to find ways to communicate and network, the good old boy network,
These
sometimes is the
shows
best.
do it. I found these shows, I do live videos all day, 10 or 12,
Yeah, that's awesome.
but it's
it's all about
effective.
getting the word out and communicating
Yeah,
and figuring out
Our
how
group,
people
my
communicate.
groups will be at over 200,000 active members this year.
That's awesome.
So,
So-
how oh, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
was going to say for April, how can people that are listening and how can people that we communicate with, how can they get involved and how can they help?
So we're still identifying homes now, so I can't tell you all the homes yet. The biggest, the shortest answer I guess I can give you is show up, right? When you show up Friday or Saturday morning at 8 a.m. at the Dream Center, I'm going to give you a shovel, whether you like it or not, right? I want you to show up. You can come to help with food. So for the Blitz specifically, we give everybody a T-shirt, right? So if you're a T-shirt company, you can donate 500-600 T-shirts. There's a way to help. If you can feed people, we feed breakfast, lunch for all of the volunteers. So imagine 250 volunteers for breakfast and lunch. That gets expensive. We feed all of our leadership team dinner, both Friday and Saturday. Anything people want to donate, whether it's tools, lumber, your services, from things like everything. I've named a bunch of them, but even we try and do things like pest control, lawn care, everything you can think of. And if you show up with, I'll say no skills, because that's some people are afraid to show up because I can't do anything. We'll figure out something for you to do. You can pick up trash. So,
Almost anyone can paint. I found in working with Habitat for Humanity, almost anyone can pick up a paintbrush.
Yep. It is a couple trades that are hard, right? Is professional painters. So if there's professional painting companies, we've got a couple, but we could always use more because almost every house we touch, we paint. Plumbers. I can find a roofer to put a roof on a house easier than I can find a plumber.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
I'll tell you, I think 3 of those 14 have plumbing needs. So
So again, if you're out there listening and you're a plumber, this is a great opportunity. But you understand kind of we've shoved everybody to go to college and not to go into trades.
You're right.
And so plumbers, just like HVAC guys and everybody else, they're just so busy. But, it's a great opportunity for a young person that college might not be for. But, the other thing that we have is we have folks out on the military base that are reservists that are also in the civil engineering squadron, and they are plumbers on the outside. So maybe we got to talk to the 301st Civil Engineering Squadron and see who they have there that can help out.
that's a big hope that I have. We've never had groups of military active duty come out. Now that we're going to do houses in Lake Worth, I'm praying they come out.
We can make that connection.
Yes, we can make that
Yep.
connection.
Yep.
Yes. Because I was at one time the training manager in the Civil Engineering Squadron, and a lot of those guys owned their own plumbing companies or worked at plumbing companies.
Yeah.
But, as a reservist, they come out one weekend a month and do whatever they can on base, and then they go back to their
Yep.
lives.
Yep.
So these are folks that potentially we might be able to see if we can't
And
get
it's
a connection there
It's
for
a good
you.
way to get the base connected because we're always working between the base and the community, and it's always a lot of community helping the base, and they want to give back too, so
Yeah.
it'll give them an opportunity.
Love it. Love it.
Yep.
That's a part of the story I left out. Why I wound up in Grand Prairie is I got coded at MEPS to be a TAR, which, anybody know what that stands
No.
for? Training Active Reserve. So I was basically the full-time active duty guy that facilitated all the reservists coming in, train you for a weekend, at least when you had time to do your normal avionics training. But I was the guy who was there kind of full-time in the
Yeah, like like what we call an AGR or an
Yeah.
ART. Right,
Yep.
right,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Well, our time's almost up, so tell us, just tell us what we can do today to help you.
What we can do to help you. Now you're putting me on the spot. Okay. I think pray for us, right? We
Okay.
shared a little bit. You didn't go into many details, but I'll tell you, with all the good, there's still plenty of haters out there. So I think you just pray for us as an organization to stay focused on what God's called us to do, and then He'll take care of the rest. Share, right? How do you get views? How do you get exposure? Share the stuff we put out. We're constantly putting out needs for people in need of our community. So take a moment and just share what we're doing. Read.
I just shared it to 7 or 8 platforms. This
Fantastic.
show.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it. That I've asked over the years for some of the most crazy things, and God's people have just stood up. I mean, it's overwhelming, really. Pray for us. Read your emails, right? We're gonna try and leverage our amazing grant writer to be more of our communications director and put out more of a steady battle rhythm of emails like you do. We use Facebook extensively, right? And now it's sort of, the use is kind of going away a little bit because we're not getting as many views, frankly. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Almost every house that we go do a site survey, and we walk the house and kind of show you what the needs are. So there's an opportunity. Plug into our Servolution Network YouTube channel and give. If you want to give, if you're blessed to give. We're open now that we have a home. We're open pretty much 9 to 2:30 Monday through Friday at the Dream Center. So if you want to come out and just take a tour, come see what we're all about. We'd love to have you.
So, and at the center that you have for clothing, you mentioned that if people wish to donate underwear and socks that you want new, and of course
Yes.
anybody would. The other clothing that you're taking in, what specifically are you looking for in clothing donations?
I think my general rule of thumb for clothing and the furniture is, if you would give it to your best friend, then bring it to us. If you were teetering, well, I'm just going to throw this away, then we probably don't need it because it causes extra work for our team, frankly.
Yeah, because then you have to dump it. Because, a lot of people just go, oh, well, I could throw it away, or I could give it to Goodwill, or I could give it to you. But I think that if people would look through and go, you know what, these are still really good clothes. Like, I have clothes that I maybe have never worn. Or worn once.
Sure.
Right? And maybe they're good career clothes, especially for folks that might be going out looking for a job, or they want something nicer to wear to church, or whatever the case might be. Think of it as giving your Sunday's best.
Yes. That's a good way. Take that away for everything. If you're going to donate something, would you give it to your best friend?
Yeah.
Jason, we appreciate you coming today, and I'm glad we finally made that connection. And
It's good to meet you in person.
it's
Put
good
a
to
name
meet
and
you
a
in
face
person.
together.
Our roll call meeting's coming up the 28th.
The 27th.
27th.
Yep.
Friday the 27th. And Dave Reaver, he's going to be our speaker.
Fantastic.
And we're certainly welcoming you and your organization kind of into our network too, because it's one of the things we do is network with a lot of different organizations and try to help put the pieces together.
Amen.
And Larry, we appreciate you for always taking care of people and getting the word out. And
You'll be here. I've got your cell phone.
and
It might be 3 o'clock in the morning. I got some weird hours.
I do
I
too.
sleep about 2 hours a night.
I don't sleep very much.
2:30 this morning. I do start posting my stuff. So turn your beeper off. People say, "Honey, you have to send this stuff at 3 o'clock in the morning."
Exactly.
I
And
always
if you're
try
gonna
to work.
if you're gonna RSVP, you need to jump on that, because we have opened it up And we are probably closing in on 400 now. Our max, including volunteers, is 500. So we are well upwards of about 400 RSVPs right now.
Wow, that's good.
So keep that in mind. And
The 30th is the
the
rodeo.
30th is the rodeo.
Don Graves is going to be singing the national anthem. We'll have some World War II veterans there. We'll probably have where they do the oath of enlistment. You'll probably do that again. And then there's a free concert afterwards right outside the Dickies Arena. And it's sponsored by American Hat Company and our dear, dear friends at Air Power Foundation. So looking forward to a lot of veterans, a lot of military getting honored at the rodeo. So
Fantastic.
Hopefully it's good weather.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I do too. But Larry, thank you so much for
My pleasure.
being here for us. And remember, Classic Auto Detail and Roll Call and Servolution.
Yes, sir.
And we thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
And we'll see you next week on Hometown Heroes.